So hello and welcome. This is my RBM stage one breathe number 38. So, um, my intention from the last breathe, was to have confidence with the building of my new space, to finish the build with ease and flow, wealth and openness to receive money and resources, to complete the build to be everything I desire or more. So, I I had a few little things happen here. And um some of these are like just little shifts in general from previous intentions, and some of these were kind of um, from the last intention. And in actual fact, I kind of felt like nothing really happened this week. Um, and it really wasn't until talking through my week that I went, oh, yeah, actually, things did happen. So it was, yeah, a bit of a nothing much really happened this week. But I've written here, I had lots of little shifts around previous intentions. I've been very social with the other parents. Um, I might also add here, um, I'm becoming very well known for my afternoon tea contributions. And all of the parents are like, oh my God, that is so delicious. So um, I'm really kind of interestingly finding myself to be in this kind of what feels like magnetic presence. Um, and um, I also want to add here, you know, I wrote this in here as well. At first it felt really strange to have all of these people like looking at me and coming up to me and being like, oh my God, are you the one that makes blah, blah, blah? And having them all talk about me. Um, it felt really weird at first, really bizarre being seen. Um, because again, like if you've followed all of my breathworks, debriefs throughout, I used to hide in plain sight. My whole thing was to not be seen, to not be noticed. And so it feels really weird to be seen and to be spoken about. And, for people to come up to me and be like, oh my God, you're the one that blah, blah, blah. Um, but it is strange. Like, it did feel strange at first, but I also came around to it as well because in order for me to be here to do what I'm here to do, I need to be seen. I need to be noticed. I need people to talk about me. That's how magnetism is. And so, yeah, it was just like this, just having to get used to being noticed after intentionally hiding my entire life up until now. Um, so yeah, that was that. Um, I've been doing lots of money work. I'm doing a practice with the Reconnected, which is Bahotakaram. So working with the mantra of Bahotakaram, working with um, other energetic teachings from um, Athena Bailey, who is now Athena Kroll, using her married name, and just feeling into some of the things that have shifted for me around money and being really open to receive and being in this. new way of looking at money in terms of wealth, feeling into wealth and the frequency of wealth. Um, and yeah, there's a couple of other programs that I've purchased. One that I've just started, which is a bit more of like an intuitive practice, learning, creating new habits of daily practice. And there's also another money program that I've purchased that I haven't started yet, but will start. Um, and yeah, I've just been moving through some of my little, um, limitations that I once had. And yeah, just with abundance and with wealth, like we had a I had a lot of cash given to me this particular week. And, I usually just pay for shopping. But this particular week, I paid for the shopping. I buy meat from a different location, and so I paid for that. I buy my grocery, like my fresh food from a different location, so paid for that. Also put fuel in my car. I have a 100 liter diesel tank. So that takes a good chunk of coin. And then there was all of that, and then I still had more. I had enough. Um, we went out for dinner as well, and I used the money to pay for that. So it was just like this real wealth abundance overflow moment. Interestingly, this current week, I didn't get a lot of cash. I did a lot of clients through like a home help program, and so I don't get paid until later. And most of my clients for the week are that, so I won't get that money until this weekend. But yeah, it was just in that moment, it was just like so much overflow. And I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. And there's still more. It was really, really nice to be in that. So a couple of little other things happened during this week too. Um, so I I had a two separate days where bees rode randomly inside. And it's not like the doors and windows were open. I don't know where these bees came from, but two separate days where I had to rescue bees from inside our house. And I also pulled another card for myself. Let me show you. Of bee spirit. Bee spirit symbolizing prosperity. So that's up on my card altar up there. And so like having that really felt again to be in this frequency of prosperity, of wealth, of overflow. And it was just this interesting little thing that happened. I've also wanted to mention here too. So like again in this conversation of being open to receive, um, we did, not we, me, Michael did a build for someone who's had an incredible business life and is worth lots and lots and lots of money and had this um, business idea of which he had the physical thing patterned um, and was going to sell that to someone else. and asked for Michael and Michael's boss to be part of it. Didn't have to contribute financially at all, but would receive some of the sale and, of this intellectual property. And yeah, just through conversation of being open to receiving money from new and unexpected places, um, there was just this little conversation that popped up about he'd had a few people offer to buy the patent, and and he was like, "Nah, that's not enough money. You'll have to offer more." Not accepting that. And so, yeah, he's had mega international companies want to purchase this patent from him, and yeah, he's like, nah, nah, more money. And so, yeah, just someone who wants to share with us his wealth and prosperity, um, and for absolutely nothing. We haven't had to do anything. We haven't had to invest anything. Like it was just this kind of little seed planted again in the back of my mind of being open to receiving from new and unexpected places. So yeah, I wanted to add that in there as well. Also, I had a bit of a conversation with my intention because I kind of didn't really know what I wanted my intention to be because, like I said, it felt like just nothing much really happened um, in my life in that week. And it was really interesting to realize that um, so much actually happened, but I wasn't really totally consciously there in the awareness of it. So, like I knew that I was in the awareness of the money stuff. I knew I was in the awareness of the wealth frequency, of the prosperity, of the openness to receive from new and unexpected opportunities, the overflow, the magnetism. I was aware of all of that stuff coming in and anchoring itself in. What I didn't see was the releasing. What I didn't see was the releasing of waiting, the releasing of old stories and limitations. And there was also a release of that was too easy and getting irritated about it. So what I didn't add doing this debrief, but I added after is we had an issue with our internet. Our internet just completely would just drop out, including our phone. And so like I just contacted Telstra and they were like, we'll have to get the NBN out to sort out that problem. But to get the NBN out, I had to be home and I was so busy with clients, I had to make the appointment 5 days later when I was going to be home. And it's an allocation of like 4 hours. And so, yeah, I had to wait nearly 4 hours for this person to show up. They turned up like 10 minutes before the end of the 4 hours. And, um, I didn't think they were going to be inside. I thought they were going to be working outside because that's what Telstra told me. They were like, it's not likely they're going to need to be in the house. But they might, but it's not likely. And I actually rang Michael when he arrived, when the NBN guy arrived, and I'm like, well, what if he needs to get to that point where the modem's plugged into? Because we've kind of built the wall out there. And he's like, oh, he won't need to get there. He can work at the other point. There's another point at the front door. And I'm like, whatever, if that's what you reckon. Anyway, so this guy comes in and he's like, oh, I need to go to the point where the modem's plugged in. I was like, ah, well, that's around there. There's a point there. Can you work at that point? He's like, no, I need to go to the one where the modem's plugged in. I was like, well, that one's not really accessible. I'm gonna have to find a way to pull that wall out. Had I known that you were going to have to come in and be here, I would have had this organized beforehand. So then I was just like in this, what the fuck am I gonna do? How am I gonna get this freaking wall off? Anyway, I made it work. I went and got a hammer and had to like separate the front part of the wall. And anyway, I got there and I was really annoyed because I was like, I rang and said, what do I do in this situation? And Michael was like, oh, it won't happen. And so I was kind of really annoyed and irritated that I was right and I was dismissed. Um, like, that's not even going to be a problem. Don't even worry about it. And then what made me even more irritated was all this NBN guy needed to do was change a fucking cable over. I was like, I wasted 4 hours of my morning waiting for this guy and 5 days of my life prior to this waiting for this guy, and all he did was change a fucking cord. I could have changed a cord. And so I was just infuriated by having to wait and infuriated by how fucking easy was that? Why did I have to wait? Why was it so easy? Why couldn't it have been more complicated to make it worth the wait? Like, I got really annoyed with that. Really annoyed with that. And yeah, so releasing of waiting. And I've been doing a lot of waiting. It's been like 6 months of the process, maybe even closer to 7 months of the process of getting permits for this build. And we still don't have permits for this build. That's another story. Part of the releasing of the waiting, and I'll mention this in my brief as well, but part of the waiting when the owner builder certificate came through, I sent it through the person I've been in communication with, and he'd had it for 2 weeks. And so I sent another email like, what's the progress? What's happening? No response. And then we found out on Friday, oh yeah, he's gone on holidays. He's gone to Europe for a month. I'm like, well, thanks for sharing that information. It's 2 weeks of my life that's been wasted here, waiting for something to happen. It's not going to happen because he's not even looking at his emails. If he had a bounce back email that said, I'm on holidays, I would have sent it to someone else. So yeah, waiting, 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 more waiting. And yeah, just getting frustrated with having to wait and be at the mercy of everyone else because I can't do anything to make it happen. I just have to wait. But anyway, talking through my intention, because again, I was like, I don't really know what my intention is because nothing really happened. Nothing inspired me to create an intention. And talking through my intention, like what I really wanted was for something to happen. What I really wanted was to have momentum, forward momentum, to literally break the ground and start having things happen. And interestingly, like I was really kind of anxious for starting. I really want things to start happening, but I was also really anxious for things to start happening too. Um, so my intention, after all of that, my intention is to create momentum and action with the build and break ground. That was what I had written. And then coming through this conversation, I slightly modified it again. So, my intention is to create momentum and tangible action with the new build and break ground as you need to. Always add with ease and freedom. With ease and freedom. And again, this was kind of like a bit of physical sensation with this intention. I had this sharp pain in my chest whilst I was setting my intention. And it was like this sharp and intermittent pain. I noticed my breath become short and shallow. I had some discomfort in my abdomen. I had some tingles in my head. I felt very heavy. And I really wanted to, and I did, I used a flower essence spray just to create a bit of space. It was like, yes, I need this. And before we went to lay down, I was getting myself organized, and in the process, I knocked over my cup of water. And so again, I was in this, oh my God, what are you doing? Had to clean all of that up before I could before I could lay down. Um, so then yeah, I cleaned all that up. I laid down and the ground underneath me felt so hard. It felt so uncomfortable. And when I thought that to myself, I really came back to, what I spoke of in my intention of um, breaking ground, breaking ground. And what was in my head was this so hard. This ground is so hard and hard to break through. That was kind of what was in my head. Um, and I felt really uncomfortable. I felt kind of, it took me a while to get settled. I was fidgety. I was like, just, yeah, it took me a little bit to get settled. Um, and it felt really hard, particularly like, in the back of my hip. It felt really hard. I get a lot of physicality in my briefs in my hip on my right side. Um, and that chest, the pain in my chest was also on the right of my chest as well. So I had to have my knees up at the beginning of the breathe because of that pain in the back of my hip. Um, but I spent the beginning taking really conscious breaths um, into that area of my hip, at the back of my hip. and just really breathing into it. I, it felt really interesting. It was like a burning pain, but it was cold. It wasn't a hot burning pain, it was cold. Um, yeah, which was quite interesting to me. Um, but yeah, I breathed. I was I was really breathing. I was really conscious again in this breathe and really breathing into the areas of my body that I felt I needed to. So you're breathing into that pain in my hip, and then it shifted into the front of my into the front of my hip. And then again, just breathing into that. And then it like moved into my thigh, and then just breathing into that. It moved into my knee, my lateral knee. And it moved into my foot. It came into my hamstring. So there was lots again of like physical um, discomfort, but it could constantly shift. It wasn't like it was just stuck the entire time. It was shifting. I had lots of action and tingles at the top of my head. Lots happening at the top of my head. And I also, through this process, noticed there was so much tension right here in my neck, in my scalene, and it really just out of nowhere just let go completely, completely let go. Um, and then it was just like, whew, yeah, super relaxed now. Um, yeah, just this instant sense of relief and relaxation with that shift. And then I I found myself starting to like doze in and out, and I was like in my mind's eye, like there were things going on in my mind's eye, um, like little videos, and in the moment they felt super relevant. I I I remember like having a good half a dozen of these moments where I would doze and there'd be something happening in my mind's eye. And then I'd wake up, come back to my breath, doze again, and there'd be, more happening. And yeah, they felt super relevant and important at that time, in that moment. But then when the breathe finished, I have no idea, absolutely no idea what any of those moments were, what was happening subconsciously there. Um, cannot recall any of them. Um, but every time I woke up, I noticed my change in breath was really short and really shallow. And then yeah, coming back to the conscious breath. And um, I've written here, one of the other girls in the group started dialoguing in the background, and I felt called to just do a bit of dialoguing with myself in that moment, and I had this kind of like dull ache um in my hip, like in the hip joint itself. It was just really, really dull, but it was noticeably there. And so, yeah, I was like, well, one of the first questions is, well, where in life do you feel dull and achy? So I asked myself, where in life do I have a dull ache? And the thing that popped up into my head was instantly freedom. Freedom. Not feeling free to make the choices to do what I want to do because I don't have the money freedom. Um, and then after like this being in my awareness, that ache that I had, um, shifted. That ache kind of like disappeared. And yeah, it was just like just being in acknowledgement and awareness of that created a shift. And, I think it's not just me. I think a lot of people, like I would do things so differently if I didn't have to be conscious with what money gets spent on what and how much is left over. And, I would have done a lot of things that I want to do already if I didn't have to wait for a more appropriate time to do them, that we can financially allow money to be spent on those things. And so, yeah, it was just where do I have this dull ache in life is financial freedom, wanting, not having financial freedom. Um, so yeah, that was my in my breathe. And my my facilitator said to me, well, maybe this is the next intention. Maybe the next intention is about freedom, money freedom, and having freedom of choice, which, could very much be the next intention or incorporated into the next intention. Like sometimes I know what I want my intention to be, and then other times, like the more recent ones, I'm like, I got no idea. And you have a bit of a conversation and it's like, yeah, that's it. So yeah, so there you go. That was my breathe number 38. And I'm nearly at the end. So, stage 3 will be happening next year, and I'm really, really, really excited to take that next step and see what happens next. So anyway, bye for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.